guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled My Little Moment in Hell. I had reported to work on this particular Monday where I am the site supervisor for an armed security account, only to discover that the blasted idiots that worked the night shift had not only left me an empty coffee pot, a mortal sin, but had entirely cleaned me out of coffee, leaving me naught but an empty container devoid of my much-needed morning caffeine, the inconsiderate so-and-sos. Grumbling, I go off to the local market to buy some caffeinated goodness so to keep my heart beating through my busy day. Mind you, I am in uniform, which means black pants, dress shirt with my badge and various security emblems, my duty belt with firearm, baton, handcuffs, etc. etc. For the sake of those squeamish folk out there that go all white in the face when they see a firearm, I have also donned a windbreaker with security written across the back in 6 high-day glow yellow letters. In other words, I looked nothing like any of the folk who worked at this market, whose uniform consisted entirely of a green apron. Now mind you, I probably could have handled this better, but I was grumpy. It was a Monday morning without coffee after all. So, I am standing just inside the door of the market reading the chalkboard where they have written their menu for the small cafe they run when this entitled wench, hereafter referred to as EU, on her cell phone, walks up to me, and tries to hand me a slip of paper. Okay, I'm a bit confused, but I take it and give it a look. But as soon as I do, EU makes a little shooing motion and walks away and sits down at a bench by the door. Never says a word to me, doesn't even really look at me, barely acknowledges my existence and just walks off. So I'm kinda annoyed, you might say. Look at this piece of paper and it's a list of, you guessed it, groceries. What the duck? So I wander over and politely inquire as to what exactly this is and why she had seen fit to hand it to me. My grocery list, of course. Fetch them for me, I'm in a hurry and can't be bothered. I'm on a very important phone call. And again with the shooing motion. Now, I've been going to this market for nigh unto 5 years, and I can assure you, they don't fetch your groceries for you. So, after some consideration, I very carefully rolled her list into a tight little ball, dropped it on her lap, and loudly growled at her to get off her lazy ass and do her own damn shopping, turn around and walk off. I hear her screeching out something behind me, but I just ignore her and keep walking. Now at this point I am seriously thinking that EU will take the hint, see the day glow letters on my jacket and buy a clue. But oh no, EU is just not that smart. She instead chases me down and starts yelling about how she's going to get me fired and I need to fetch her damn groceries right now. Trying to remain calm, I politely, honest, but forcefully tell her again, very clearly, I don't work here, do your own damn shopping, lady, and leave. Thinking that's the end of it, off I go to get a cup of wonderful hot coffee at the cafe and then move on to the aisle of heaven, where I am busily perusing their fine selection of lovely roasted goodness, when who should appear but EU with a gentleman in tow. She's loudly berating him about his lazy workers, and demanding I be fired on the spot. The poor gentleman looks confusedly at me, then at her and informs her he doesn't work here, we don't employ security, ma'am. Being a bit of a jerk, I wave at her, give her a big smile, and agree with him. EU absolutely loses it, goes completely insane. Starts screaming that I need to fetch her damn groceries right now or she is going to get us all fired, and she is an important person, and how we will regret treating her this way, blah, blah, blah. The gentleman finally gets a word in edgewise and again informs her I don't work there, and I don't have to do anything for her. That is when I can see a dim little bulb go off in her head, and can see a glimmer, tiny but there, of understanding begin to dawn in her eyes. This dim light is however quickly squashed by her overinflated sense of entitlement as she promptly replies in the snottiest voice possible, I kid you not, with EU. Well, he's obviously a menial of some sort, make him. To say this got me a tad riled up is perhaps an understatement. So I shoved a one-finger salute into her face and told her emphatically to go screw herself. The gentleman quickly got between us and loudly told her, in no uncertain terms that 1. Again I did not work there, and 2. That she needed to get the hell out of his store. Right now. EU literally screamed at the top of her lungs, no words, just rage, and started demanded to see someone in charge so she could get us all fired and someone better get her damn groceries, and how she was going to sue us all. Damn it, didn't we know how important she was? The gentleman, who I had naturally assumed was the manager, promptly got right back in her face and yelled over her that he was the owner. His family had owned the place for 20 years, and they had never in all that time done someone shopping for them, ever. He then grabbed her by the arm and literally dragged her off towards the front of the store. At that point I was just shaking my head in disbelief, but I just went ahead, made my selection of fine coffees, and wandered over to stand in line to pay for it. As I'm there at the register, the owner came up to me and actually apologized for EW's behavior, and we shared a WTF moment. Actually ended up just laughing at how stupid EU was. Or crazy, either way. He even tried to let me have the coffee for free, but I thanked him and told him it wasn't his fault that EU was a nut, and I was fine with paying for it. Now, you would think that that was the end of it. I mean, it was crazy, but weird stuff happens, people are idiots, whatever. But oh no, dear readers, it would appear that we had both underestimated the depths of EW's craziness, because as we walked through the door to the outside world, who to our astonishment was there waiting for us? EU, it turns out, had actually called the police on us, and the dumb idiot was out there screaming at the officer demanding that we be arrested for not serving her, and how she wanted us both fired, and she was going to sue, and that someone had better get her damn groceries right now, damn it. My jaw dropped, I don't mind saying it, and I was beyond shocked. I honestly started laughing at that point. This lady was certifiably nuts. Because of my job we happened to work closely with the local PD, so I actually recognized the officer that had responded to the call and gave Officer Betsy a wave when she looked at me. She gave me a grin and walked over asking me about exactly what the hell was going on. We both gave our side of the story and the owner asked that she be removed from the property, please, as she was at this point causing a scene. Betsy just rolled her eyes, walked over and told EU that she needed to leave right now, immediately, or she would be charged with trespassing. Now, you ever have that moment when you can see something bad start to happen, but your mind just can't quite believe it's actually occurring? Well, I saw it start, clear as day, as EU reared back and started to go off again, and yup, there it was, she actually jammed her finger into Officer Betsy's sternum, not once, but twice. Might have been a third time, but Officer Betsy had at that point picked her up, flipped her over, and dropped EU on her head. Landed on top of her, had her handcuffed in record time, got back up, opened her door, slid EU into the back of her patrol car and slammed the door on her. And we all just stood there shaking our heads in total disbelief as EU started to scream and thrash about and kick at the windows of the squad car. She was still doing it as Officer Betsy drove off to the station too. Saw Officer Betsy later on that day, and she told me that EU was still throwing a fit when they got to the station, and fought the officers there like hell, until they ended up stuffing her into a control chair. She was later transported to the hospital for a psych eval. No idea what happened to her after that. So that's my I don't work here lady. Hope you enjoyed. Wow folks, I am completely blown away at the response this has gotten, and thanks for the gold. The next story is titled Neighbor Tries to Steal Driveway. My next neighbor, I will call her Jen, recently discovered that 3 square meters of our second driveway are on her land. She recently bought a new car, Mazda Mix-5. One night Jen was looking outside at our driveway, so my parents and I went outside. She invited us to look at her new car, so we went and looked at it. Very nice car. She then started discussing where she could park it. She started talking about installing a new driveway next to ours. We had no problem with this. Our driveway is made of pavers, and we looked outside one day and she was digging up plants that lined our driveway but are on her drive. My family thought this was weird but didn't do anything about it. A couple days later she was outside digging up all the pavers on our driveway. My mother went outside and talked to her. She was planning just to park on our driveway just while she was constructing hers. We just decided to let her keep going because she was doing a great job on repaving our driveway. The next day we found what part of our driveway she owned, and it was a tiny triangle just on the boundary to the council's land. Council's land stretches 3 meters into everyone's land where a footpath would be. Later that day we saw her reinstalling the pavers and then installing some of her own. We called the local council and asked about the legality of her parking there, and it is actually illegal for her to park there because that would be blocking a footpath and you can't legally park on the council's land. My dad confronted her about the fact it's illegal to park there and she is blocking our access to our land, and she just said she doesn't care. This came as quite a surprise as she has always been nice to us in past. Then that leads to today. She was out there installing the last of her pavers and then hopping in her car and parking her car on our driveway. We also found out that she had never planned to make her own driveway, but because she owns a tiny bit of our driveway, it's now hers. Anyway, that's what's happened up to today. I'll give an update if anyone wants it in about a week. The next story is titled My Sister Doesn't Work Here, You Psycho. So a little bit of a backstory. My younger sister, by 10 plus years, used to have a bad social anxiety when she was little, but my parents got her into therapy and she got significantly better throughout the years. Now she's 100% functioning. She's very talkative and funny when dealing with family or friends and just a bit shy when dealing with strangers. Basically, the only occasions when her old anxiety kicks in is when she's supposed to speak in public or when strangers get confrontational with her, which is, as you probably understand, what's important to this story. Anyway, enough about my sister. So about 2 years ago, she was 18 at the time, I got back home after being out of the country for several months and decided to take my sister for shopping because she had birthday just a few weeks earlier. She's a very talented artist, and back then she was at a stage when she was convinced that artists are supposed to dress classy, which meant that when I picked her up, she was dressed in gray trousers, white shirt and a vest. She looked very official. Anyway, we went shopping. She wanted mainly some painting supplies, and on our way home, I decided to stop in a big hardware store because I needed some stuff for a hiking trip with my friends. She went inside with me and wandered off to look at some other stuff while I did my shopping. I was done maybe in 10 minutes, and as I was pushing my cart towards registers and looking around whether I'll see my sister, I heard some guy screaming at someone, presumably an employee, about how incompetent they were and that he's getting them fired, etc. Just some general stuff you see here mentioned all the time. I don't exactly remember it to the last word. The guy sounded very angry and used a lot of profanities. I didn't pay much attention. Normally I'm the kind of a person who would probably stand up for that poor employee, but then I was really tired and I didn't feel like dealing with it. However, as I was crossing the aisle where this incident was taking place, I realized to my horror that it's not an employee getting screamed at, it's my sister. This guy, who looked like someone dressed an extra from Mad Max into a Busign suit, he looked really comical, was holding her by her hand, shouting profanities right in her face. She looked absolutely terrified and on the verge of tears. I immediately went into a protective brother mode, sprinted across those 10-something meters and shoved the guy away from my sister while screaming at him to leave her the duck alone. He let go of her and looked dumbfounded at first, then he got aggressive, started going off about who the hell I think I am and other bullcrap. Then he started shoving me back, but I was much heavier and taller, so I just wrestled him to the ground where he just kept screaming incomprehensibly. By this point, the commotion had already attracted attention of an employee who promptly called a manager and a security guard. I told them what happened. Guy was calmed down a bit, so I let him go and he started ranting how he's gonna sue us all, but didn't try to get physical again. Manager called the police, who took statements from all of us, even my sister who was finally able to speak normally, and reviewed the footage from cameras. Apparently what happened before I got involved was this. My sister was checking out some electronics and noticed some headphones or something has fallen out of the shelf. She starts putting it back. Guy sees her, and since she's dressed in official-looking clothes, he thinks she's an employee or manager and stands beside her waiting until he gets her attention. My sister blocks him out at first because she doesn't realize he wants something from her. After a while, Guy gets visibly annoyed, grabs her by her shoulder and flips out on her about how unprofessional she is, etc. My sister, being as shy as she is shocked and stutters over herself, unable to explain that she doesn't work there. Apparently this just makes him more mad. He gets progressively more aggressive and actually ducking slaps her. Luckily not too hard. It was more like the kind of slap you give someone when you want to wake them up. A few seconds later, I appear and you know the rest. So what happened next? Cops cuffed that psycho. Much to his surprise, I remember he actually said, "What the duck are you doing? Why aren't you arresting him? He attacked me." He just wasn't able to comprehend that grabbing my sister's arm and slapping her wasn't okay. He was later charged with assault and I believe he got a probation, couple hundred hours of public service, and had to attend an anger management therapy. We didn't really care. Store manager apologized, even though we didn't blame the store in any way, and gave us some vouchers. My sister was a bit shaken, but she was physically okay aside from small bruise from how he held her hand. The end. The next story is titled Lady, You Need a Life Coach. So, a little background. Back when I was in high school, I used to work as a lifeguard and occasionally teach swim lessons to some younger children at this gym in my area. It was really a nice gig. Picked my own hours, got a free membership to the gym, and the deepest part of the pool was only 4 feet deep. Super easy crap. I stopped working there about 4 years ago, yet I still maintained a membership all those years after I started working at my current company. Fast forward to today, I'm finishing up my workout and am walking through the pool deck to get to the sauna. While I'm walking through, I'm recognized by one of the kids I used to teach swim lessons to. He was in the water playing in the shallow end and his mother was sitting off to the side looking at her phone. As soon as he saw me he stood up, shouted my name and came running towards me for a hug. I asked him how he'd been doing and this is when I hear this kid's crazy mom, CM, shout, "It's about time you showed up." Thrown off and not sure what she meant by this, I simply look at her and say, "Excuse me? CM. Cut the crap. We've been waiting for about 15 minutes. His lesson was supposed to start 10 minutes ago." At this point it dawned on me that she actually thought I still worked there. I was honestly so surprised she thought I worked there considering I was wearing a sweat-drenched gray t-shirt, black shorts and running shoes. The uniform for teaching swim lessons at the gym is essentially the exact same one as lifeguards, red swim trunks that say guard and a whistle around either my wrist or neck. So, I politely say to her, "Ma'am, I no longer work here, I haven't in 4 years. I just came here for a workout." And I pointed to my attire. CM. That's not true, I see you all the time here. You've taught my child a few times. Where's your supervisor? Why are you lying to me? Me. Once again, I haven't worked here in 4 years, but I did teach your son and that's why I said hi to him. Now, I'm just a regular customer like you. I'm just trying to work out and go home. I can give you my supervisor's number over at XYZ Inc., but I doubt he'd care very much about this. At this point I can kind of see it registering in CM's eyes. A look that looked something like, "Oh crap. Maybe this guy actually doesn't work here anymore, but I need to save face." At this point she says, "Well, the least you can do is get us a few towels for our troubles. My son is going to be freezing and I forgot to grab some on the way out here." At this point honestly, I am just completely floored. Where do people like this get their sense of entitlement from? I'm trying to think of an appropriate response, and me being the wise ass I am, offer to hand her the sweaty small little handcloth I was carrying that I used while I worked out. CM shrieked as if I was holding out a dead puppy. "Get that away from me, what are you doing? Go get me some towels, you jackass." I simply looked at her and said, "Lady, I'm not your errand boy. You don't talk to people you don't know like that. You don't need a lifeguard for your kid, you need a life coach for yourself." Honestly, never felt so badass in my life after saying that. I just turned around and started walking away as she yelled at me. It was like a scene from a movie where cool guys don't look at explosions. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.